Dave, that's the worst sound I've ever heard.
I'm not even typing.
No, that's not you. It's however Dave is running the sound right now. It's just murdering my headphones.
I just assumed it was my keyboard again.
Gotta fire in those lineups, man.
Ow. What is up, everybody? It is Tuesday, May the 6th. Hope everyone's Cinco de Mayo were good yesterday. If you played my boy Hector Sanchez, it was a good...
I saw that!
It was a good day. Want to introduce today's guest on the show, and there we go. You've got Drew Dinkmeyer. I'll get these shots set up in a second. You've got Drew Dinkmeyer, Derek Carty, and Davis Maddock on today's Insiders TV daily MLB show, sponsored by FantasyElite, the app that you can get in the iStore. On today's show, we're going to be doing a three-man draft. Me versus Dink versus Davis.
We already know how this ends.
And Cardi, your iPod came in today, so oh yeah, super
Exciting
sexy.
stuff.
So yeah,
They
we'll be.
still make iPods?
What's that?
They still make iPods for real?
Oh, Davis. Oh, my name is Davis.
No,
I'm so
I have not
cool.
seen one in years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Davis. They make iPods, just
Did
like
my
they.
Walkman come in?
What's,
Dink, let's be real. You don't know how to use a Walkman.
oh man, just like the just like stickers are available. So for your computer. Sorry, that one didn't.
I don't even know where you were.
That
going
one
with
didn't land. I was trying to make
no,
a joke about Davis's computer, but anyways, Supreme Davis, get us started on this big Tuesday slate of games.
Yeah. The only thing you need to be aware of weather-wise is the Chicago game with the White Sox and the Cubs. Looks like there's like a 35-40% chance of rain from what I'm looking at right now. I don't really see anyone in that game that you like need to get in your lineup, so I don't think that necessarily even applies to anyone. It is a little bit of a grosser slate in terms of we have a lot of games going, but there's not even one pitcher outside of Kershaw that you look at and go, boom, all over that guy. Love the matchup, love the skills and everything. But, I mean, even Kershaw, though, there's some question as to how deep he goes in this game, how effective he might be coming back from the injury. I mean, has Kershaw ever been on the DL before, Cardi?
Not that I recall.
Yeah, so this is the first time he'll be coming back for making a rehab start. So are you comfortable, Dink, using him, whatever the cost is, cash games across the board?
No, I'd prefer to use him in tournaments. He threw 86 pitches in the rehab start against the Double-A Cubs team. Pitched pretty well, but it's a Double-A Cubs team. So, and Washington's pretty good against lefties. They lead the league in weighted on base average against lefties, and some of that's exaggerated by good starts with guys. But you look at the skill set of the lineup, and Jason Worth has a big platoon split. Rendon showing a big platoon split. Danny Espinosa has always hit better from the right side than the left side. You take out Bryce Harper, who isn't as good against lefties. You put in like Scott Harrison, who's in that lineup today, who's always hit lefties well. It's not an easy lineup for Kershaw. So, his price tag isn't really discounted from the injury. So I'd prefer to use him in tournaments.
Wouldn't you say his price tag on FanDuel is discounted? I mean, he's less than Darvish, less than Fernandez.
Slightly. 9,800. I mean, last night Max was 10-4, and Max is off to a start that's better than anything Kershaw's posted before. So, I mean, maybe by $200 or $300, but
okay,
nothing crazy.
All right, where are you at, Cardi?
Yeah, I'm not really on Kershaw today. I mean, coming back from the injury, there's always a little bit of risk there. The matchup today really isn't that good. Pitching's really weird today. There's not a single safe cash game play in my estimation today. I mean, I think Hamels, if I'm going with an ace pitcher where I'm going to spend a pretty lot of money on him, I think I'm going to go with Hamels because I think his floor is better than most of the other guys I'm looking at today. But even that, his matchup isn't that good. So it's kind of pitching's a little bit of a crapshoot today.
Okay.
That
Are
line
you on? Are you on Hamels?
Without Hamels, though.
Are you on
What
Hamels,
what was
Dink?
that, Dink?
I said the lineup the Jays throughout there helps out Hamels, though. I mean, Juan Francisco hitting fifth instead of Brett Laurie, and you've got Eric Kratz catching no DeAndre Navarro. I mean, that's not the best lineup that they can put together against a left-handed pitcher. So I don't mind Hamels. His price is down a little bit. You look at like Draft Street, he's at 16. DraftKings, he's at 8.4. He's a guy that's usually probably going to be around 18 and around 10 on those two sites. So I don't mind him. I like Jesse Chavez a little bit more where they're priced similarly, like on FanDuel. But I don't mind Hamels.
Really, you like Chavez more than Hamels?
I do.
You're really buying this performance this year, then?
Yeah, he's always had good skills, and that park is just awesome. And I mean, I don't like Seattle's offense that much either. Is the other thing. I mean, there's like two above average bats in the entire lineup, in my opinion, Cano and Hart, and he's got the platoon advantage on Hart. So one guy he really has to worry about.
Okay.
I like Chavez, but I mean, I don't think he's anywhere near Cole Hamels' level of like underlying skill set. I mean, the matchup today is good. He's definitely on my radar, but Seattle is kind of lefty heavy. I don't know. I think his price tag is a little higher than I'd like. Especially where I think on FanDuel he's like almost identical to Hamels. Yeah, he's $100 less. So
yeah, on other sites where Hamels is cheaper, I'm on Hamels, but like I'd like Cole to show me himself right now. I mean, the last start was really bad against the Mets, and granted, there's some Mets guys that have seen him a lot in the past and have seen him well. But I'd feel a little bit better, if Hamels, like Kershaw, if Hamels was a little bit further along in his coming off the DL and pitching more like Cole Hamels.
Okay. Why don't we talk about Cardi's top play of the day? Because I was wondering if he was going to come up, and this because I didn't look at the site before we started the show, and I clicked over, and so after you guys basically poo-pooed the Kershaw plays, like I haven't even looked at any other starting pitchers because I just assumed that kind of everyone was going to be on him because he's Clayton Kershaw, So talk to me about Henderson Alvarez and why you like him in this spot versus the Mets tonight. He doesn't throw as hard as Eovaldi does, so.
no, but very few pitchers throw as hard as Eovaldi does. He still throws hard. He's not a big strikeout guy because he's more of a sinker, ground ball kind of pitcher. But the stuff's pretty good. The Mets strike out a lot, so I can definitely see him turning in, a serviceable amount of strikeouts while limiting runs because it's, the New York Mets and he's pitching at home. So I think Alvarez is kind of underrated to begin with, and I think the matchup today is really good. So he's a good player today. I actually may rock him in some of my cash game lineups just because, I mean, there's really not a good cash game player today. I mean, as I said, Hamels you could do because the floor is higher, but I mean, there's a little bit of risk with everyone today. That being said, though, there's tons and tons of options. I mean, there's lots of guys you can look at and say,
There might not be anyone higher than 20% owned in double ups, like in terms of starting pitching, which normally you'll see 2 or 3 guys who are close to 25. I think Kershaw will be the only one who cracks 20. I mean, maybe Chavez, but I still think people are a little scared of him just because he is relatively new. Are you on the Alvarez train at all, Dink, or no?
Not at all. To me, you got to strike guys out if you're going to be in my lineups in daily fantasy. Strikeouts are just huge, and he just doesn't do it. I mean, maybe he gets a little bit of a boost because the Mets strike out a decent bit. But I mean, he had his best game of the year against Seattle. And, Davis, I told you my side story on that he has an obsession with King Felix that I found out about after that performance, that he tends to pitch well against Seattle. But I need strikeouts. And so his price is kind of inflated because he's got a 3.28 ERA, and he's not a 3.28 ERA guy. So, I don't know, just not that enticing to me. I like Chris Archer a lot more, who's a little bit more expensive. because he strikes guys out. He's facing an Orioles lineup without Chris Davis. It's very right-handed. He's dominated righties throughout his career. Great pitching environment in Tampa. I'd rather spend a little more and get Archer.
You might need to justify that Archer love because he's had some very mixed results this year, including I think a couple starts where he's walked like 4 or 5 guys, and there's nothing more terrifying than taking a pitcher who's going to walk a bunch of guys. Like that is absolute worst case scenario is him giving guys a bunch of free passes and inflating his pitch count so he can't go deeper in the game. So you should definitely talk about that.
Well, I mean, his walk rate's better than last year. It's 2.55 walks per 9. And it's 6.7%. That's a pretty low walk rate. He had command issues all throughout the minors. That was a big deal. He was a Cubs prospect. He was one of my favorite prospects. He went over in that Garza trade, and he's improved his command considerably at the major league level. And the thing with him is he's always had huge splits. He's really struggled against lefties, getting lefties out. In his career, he's given up a 329 weighted on base average to lefties, 246 to righties. The 246 number is way too low. It's exaggerated by a very low BABIP. He's got good skills against right-handed bats, and he keeps the ball on the ground. It's a good defense, and that Orioles lineup has been like kind of neutralized by like the likes of Ricky Nolasco of late. Without Chris Davis, they're not that good. So I like Archer.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I like I like Baltimore's lineup even without Davis. I still think they have a lot of good hitters in there.
We need to put some things on the board. I mean,
yeah, we got to start doing this because Nate Eovaldi would have made me like a wealthy man the last couple weeks. Dink and I have a pretty good one. Actually, I'm going to throw this out to the chat right now. So Dink and I have this bet on who has a higher weighted on-base average at the end of the year, Charlie Blackmon or David Ortiz. You guys can guess which side I'm on. But we need a good wager because obviously I'm a college student. I don't have enough money to make Dink sweat. There's not anything that's going to make this interesting. So what is something that Dink and I can do to wager on who has the highest weighted on base average? Throwing that one to you guys. But yeah, we definitely need
Davis, you still have to do karaoke for single ladies.
No, I'm never doing that.
Well, then why would we throw out
dude, anything involving singing is too embarrassing for someone who wants to do this for a living. I want to be in the sports media for a living. I can't
Says
have
the
that
guy who wears the most embarrassing hats and shirts I've ever seen.
Get out of here. Stop it.
As far as like strikeout pitchers go, though, like I can see what Dink is saying about Alvarez having limited strikeout potential. So I think if you want a strikeout guy, I think Drew Hutchison is a really good play today. He's up against a pretty weak Phillies offense, and the Phillies offense is very left-handed, which is going to benefit him. He's got the stuff to strike guys out. It's actually a slight improvement going into Citizens Bank Park, believe it or not.
Why do you think lefties helps him?
Wait.
Yep.
Hutchison?
Yeah, definitely.
Hutchison's right-handed.
Hutchison is right-handed. Yep. Okay, you got me there.
Hold on, wait. Were you thinking about? I do this all the time. I get him and McGowan confused all the time.
McGowan's right-handed too.
Yeah, I definitely got confused for a second there. Okay, so maybe that doesn't help him, but it's still not a very good offense regardless. He's not going to have to face a DH. He's thrown to a really good catcher today. The park is an improvement, so I think Hutchison is a good play today. I would definitely take him over Archer.
Yeah, I'm not on board with you on Archer. I think a little bit higher than you of the Baltimore's offense, and just anytime pitchers are prone to that meltdown inning, it's just you don't want them on your teams. I think I would rather take Hamels, and I would definitely rather just spend on Kershaw and know that I'm gonna not get a blow up. Like Kershaw just doesn't have those blow up games. Yeah, probably not gonna go that deep into the game, but I would rather gamble on Kershaw being healthy than gamble on Archer like figuring something out magically from his last two starts.
But what do you say? But the figuring out something, like look at his 2013 line and his 2014 line, and tell me other than like just dumb bad luck on BABIP, like what's really going on there? He's striking out the same amount of guys, walking the same amount of guys, getting a few more ground balls. Like it's dumb Babbitt luck. So like I'm not gonna. That to me is giving you a price discount. His recent performances is just giving you a price discount when his peripherals are exactly the same.
Okay. Well, all right then. I think that for the viewer, well, no, actually, the player we really need to talk about, the pitcher, is Robbie Ray, because I don't know anything about him, but he is $3,000 on FanDuel. So if he is good, you can basically do whatever you want with your FanDuel lineup. So Cardi, talk about Robbie Ray.
Robbie Ray was the guy they got this winter in the trade for Doug Fister. He's a prospect, but he's not like an elite prospect. Like basically, he kind of projects at his best as like a mid-rotation starter. He throws in the low 90s. I don't know. His changeup is okay. He's still kind of working on a third pitch. Command is a little bit of an issue for him.
How hard does he throw?
He throws like 92, 93.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nothing to get excited about.
I mean, he can dial it up into the mid 90s, but he doesn't sit there. So yeah, I mean the matchup's good today. I think given all the uncertainty with pretty much all pitchers today, you couldn't be faulted for going with him and then just loading up on hitters. But I do think there are some better options out there.
How dumb is it to play Robbie Ray in cash games, Dink?
I mean, I'm the guy who's going to tell you yesterday it was stupid to play Eovaldi and Ventura in cash games because Scherzer's so good. So
I had a huge discussion with Leone last night about this. It was too much, so I don't need to talk about this anymore.
I mean, there's always so much value hitting on FanDuel that you can play whatever pitcher you want on any given night, and you can figure out a good lineup. Like it's not that hard with the way that they price things. So I mean, I think he's a fine tournament play, but the Astros are better against lefties. They've got some guys who do hit for power. It's a much better park for him to pitch in than it would be in Houston. So I don't mind him, but like the scouting reports I've seen have been a little bit different than the stat line that I'm seeing in the minors, because I've been told he's going to be more of a pitch to contact guy at the major league level, and his stat lines in the minors look like he has pretty good stuff. So I don't know. I've never seen him pitch, so I don't really know. For 3K, you can build whatever lineup you want and throw it in a tournament, but I just don't see the necessity to do that in cash games. I'd rather you can get almost anybody you want on FanDuel with like Hutchison at 5,800 than you can at 3,000. So
yeah, there is no reason to take him in a cash game. Like at least it's all site specific, but what's his price on Draft Street?
He's expensive. He's 14.9, 14.5, something like that.
He's completely off the board there.
Yeah.
So on FanDuel, like on one pitcher site, it's like you don't need to take a 3K guy. You take whoever's the safest option, pretty much. That's how most people do for their cash games. Now, for tournament games, you target those high strikeout guys, the guys that allow you to get other bats in there that you want. But I just don't understand the logic for playing a 3K guy. You would have to, I just don't know if he's going to get you that guaranteed points that someone else like a Chavez is going to do. That being said, if there was ever a night to play a 3K guy, tonight would be the night.
I still think I'm playing Kershaw in cash games. I
wouldn't fault you for doing that on FanDuel because the pricing is so soft that you can fit in whoever you want. I think on like Draft Street, I think it's a little bit tougher, and it kind of gets into this discussion of if you want to play Kershaw, then on most other sites you probably can't play Tulowitzki. And I
have both of them in on FanDuel.
Yeah, on FanDuel you can. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not going to knock that, but like on other sites you pretty much can't. And I don't know if I want to play a game that I don't have Tulowitzki in my lineup tonight. I don't want to deal with that.
It's too much of a headache. Okay, well, real quick then, before we talk about GPP pitchers, the two guys that you feel most comfortable with in cash games. Cardi, you first.
Shit. Hamels and Hamels and Alvarez. I don't care.
Swag.
I'm okay with playing Alvarez in cash games tonight, given what's going on with pitching.
I am too, for what it's worth. I think I'm more on your side, but I'm also I've become this huge Marlins homer. So, all right, Dink, you're two.
For me, like it's very site dependent because Chavez is super expensive everywhere else, but for FanDuel, for me, he's in play. On other sites where he's super expensive, I probably won't have him, and then I'll probably be fishing in the pool with like Hamels and Archer and Hutchinson, those kind of guys.
I think for me, it's Kershaw, Chavez, and Alvarez will be the three that I'm choosing from, like depending on like where I'm playing. And I think tonight is a night on Draft Street to go with 2 starting pitchers and a relief pitcher.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think there's
Go
enough
on.
guys that are like there's enough guys that are cheap, like on the pitching side, that you can still play some pretty good pitchers if you want with like a third cheap guy. Whether it's like Tyler Lyons is like 8K, and I know he's not the most exciting guy in the world, but he keeps the ball on the ground and the Braves strike out a ton. And you've got Kuroda at just under 13, which is a really cheap tag for him in a much better park than he's used to pitching in. So I think there's enough value plays on Draft Street that you don't have to go to in a relief pitcher.
Yeah, I think today especially, I think it's almost the complete opposite. I think there's enough like lower priced pitchers where you can go, 3 starters, no problem. I think Hector Noesi and Jeremy Guthrie are both, pretty cheap on there, and I think either of them could slot in as that third starter.
okay. Well, as far as tournament option goes, then who is your guys' favorite like lower tiered pitcher? I think I would prefer Erlin to Guthrie, but I think they're definitely both in play as far as tournament options go.
I think Erlin is the better pitcher overall, and he certainly has more upside. Guthrie's very boring, but there's a lot of factors working in Guthrie's favor today. I mean, he's facing the weaker offense. He's getting a park boost. He's getting a big strikeout park boost, 14% going from Kaufman to Petco. So that's going to help, when you are looking for strikeouts from a guy who doesn't usually get a lot of them. He doesn't have the DH to deal with. There's a lot to like about Guthrie tonight, aside from him, kind of sucking in general.
Yeah. Besides him being Jeremy Guthrie.
Yeah.
Which side of the debate do you fall on there, Dink, Guthrie or Erlin? Because that over-under is juicy, and neither one of those teams can hit, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that's just a tough situation for me. I agree with Derek that I think Guthrie's probably the safer play. Erlin might have a little bit more upside because he's got a little bit more strikeout potential. But I don't know, man. Like Guthrie really struggles against lefties, and while the Padres suck as a whole, they have the capability to put a lineup together that can be very left-handed.
Yeah. Absolutely. Randall and Venable are good hitters.
And that park isn't as bad on lefties as it used to be since they moved into fences. So I don't know. I don't mind either. They're very cheap, and I don't mind either of them on multiple starting pitcher sites, but I'd probably be looking at 3 starting pitcher sites as opposed to the 2 starting pitcher sites.
Yeah,
Okay.
and for what it's worth, I have Guthrie with a pretty normal projected platoon split. So, I mean, obviously a lot of lefties isn't going to help him, but I don't think it's going to abnormally hurt him either.
All right. Are there any other starting pitchers you guys would like to talk about, or have we basically ran through pretty much everybody and said who the fuck knows?
I think Cologne is in the discussion too. Going into Miami, I mean, I know there's the whole thing we talked about it yesterday, where they might be stealing signs, and their offense has been crazy at home this year. I mean, obviously there's going to be blow up risk there, but I mean, there's blow up risk with pretty much everyone today. So I think given all the other things working in his favor in that matchup, I think he's definitely in the conversation, maybe near the top of it.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't throw hard enough, right? No, I actually don't know this. How often do the Marlins strike out? Are they still a high K team?
I'm pretty sure they're a pretty high K team, but I'd have to look.
Yeah. Anyone else think, or are we good here?
I mean, somebody asked in chat about Marco Estrada. Like, price tag is the only problem with Estrada. Like, the matchup's fine. Arizona's a decent offense, and they've got power, which is what can kind of screw Estrada up because he gets homer prone. But price tag is the bigger issue for me. Same thing with like C.J. Wilson, who I like his matchup a lot today, but the price tag is just pretty
Too
high.
high.
For him in this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
for both of those guys, the price tags are high, and I don't think the matchups even are that great. I think Estrada's is a little bit better than Wilson's, but I don't know.
All right.
Estrada's
Well,
at the bottom of my list.
okay. Yeah, he's not very high on my list either. I just think a lot
He's
of
like
factors are working against him.
fringe consideration for me today.
All right, well, let's move to some hitters. As far as lines go, the only ones that really jump out, we just talked about Kansas City at San Diego, and then the Texas-Colorado game. Two pretty subpar pitchers, 10.5 run over/under. That is going to be the game to target for sure. But so let's start out with stacks because Cardi's gonna tell us how Coors Field is overrated probably. So so let's talk about stacks because I think the Rockies and Rockies Rangers is pretty obvious. So who are you looking at, Derek?
Well, I think there's definitely some Rockies and some Rangers to look at. I think Rangers more so than Rockies. Same guys we've been talking about. We have another righty on the hill for Colorado tonight. He's not very good, Nicasio. So I think Chu, Martin, and Fielder all look good tonight. And then
Martin
I think
got a big lineup boost too. He's hitting second tonight.
yeah. So yeah, they've moved Andrus down to 9th. Is he there again tonight? So Martin.
Yeah, well, the big thing is they got rid of that stupidity of Josh Wilson hitting second yesterday. So
yeah, I don't know. I think one of my favorite stacks tonight is Detroit against Brett Overholtzer, who's a lefty who's not very good. Detroit is very righty heavy. There's just basically the entire lineup is an option tonight for them. And there's, potential for that to get out of hand and for there to be some compounding effects.
What is Davis doing?
good job, host.
Thank you.
This is Davis's screen right now. Maybe there's like a charger issue going on there.
All right, I'm back. My fucking landlord just came here and was like, I gotta spray your room. I don't know what that was.
You
But I'm
just
here.
you didn't miss much.
Okay,
Cardi likes Detroit.
sounds reasonable. Let's talk about catchers. This conversation begins and ends with Derek Norris, honestly. Like, I'm not playing anyone else. He has an OPS over 1,000 versus left-handed pitchers. Like, he's still cheap. It's cheaper than, like, you'd normally play for someone with this split. Cheaper than Wieters is in the right matchup. Cheaper than Posey is. I think Norris is the guy.
It's batting 5th tonight.
It's not terrible.
No, 5th is good. Anything 5th or higher is great, especially for a guy who, sometimes bats, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I like Norris. I think
Why is 5th the number?
there's a huge drop off in run RBI production going from 5th to 6th. Like that's the biggest sequential drop off there is in the batting order. So yeah, so 5th is really like that cutoff point where you want to be.
Dink, are you on Norris?
Yeah, Norris is cool. His price, it's not exorbitant, but it is a little bit higher than what we've seen for the last few times we've liked to use ace catchers. And the Elias guys pitch pretty well. He's very erratic with his command, and so but he limits power. So I don't know. Like, I like Norris, but I find myself like punting catcher today more so than any other position to fit in other offensive bats. So, like around that same price range, I'd be inclined to choose Jared Saltalamacchia over him, who Cologne just gives up 1.4 home run per 9 to left-handed bats. Salty's a big power hitter with a big platoon split as a switch hitter. Never has hit left-handed pitching well. Has always hit right-handed pitching well. So I don't mind Saltalamacchia at the same price. I find myself like going the super cheap route. Gerald Laird is hitting 5th. He's like min price. JP Arancibia, he's boom or bust, but he's min price and he's hitting 7th in Coors. Those are two guys that are on my radar.
I think it's all fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think where Victor Martinez is still catcher eligible, like on FanDuel, I like him a lot today. Obviously not a punt play.
He's very expensive, yeah.
He's very expensive, but I think catcher's kind of a difficult position today. I think Yasmani Grandal, if he winds up being in that lineup.
Oh, screw that guy.
I think Sal Perez in the same game. Both of them are options, but yeah, catcher's tough today.
He took Giordano's win last night.
No, he did. He didn't. Jorko did.
Jorko did it, dude.
Jerko.
Yeah. I mean, he tied the game, but then they got the lead back the next inning on the Hosmer dong.
Okay, but he still took away the win at first.
But he gave DP a seat in the FanDuel finals. So, I mean, isn't that worth something?
So let's blame it on Jerk. He's from the Jerk store.
He's still got -3 points for Giordano.
Hey, if you're complaining about what Giordano did last night, the rest of your lineup was the problem. Like you got 14 FanDuel points. Like you gotta be pretty happy.
Davis,
your problem was not taking Scherzer. That was your problem.
Yes, I needed 4 more points because I did have Tulo, but I was trying to cash in the monster. So I was like glued to the computer screen until that home run. That dong was a costly one. Faux show. Can we move on, though? Can we move on? Davis, is your landlord done spraying the room?
Yeah, I don't fucking know, man. Like, you goddamn... College apartments suck so bad. I got no privacy ever, man. Let's talk about second baseman. Scooter Janae. Anybody? Batting second. I like Dietrich tonight. No surprise. Marlins infield always, but who's your top second base option tonight, Dink?
Top would be Kinsler, but you got to find the right price point on him. On FanDuel, he's affordable at $3,500. Other sites, he's a little bit more pricey. But yeah, I like Scooter. He's still cheap, pretty much everywhere. Cole Mentor, he doesn't have huge splits, and he's like we said before, he's pretty good the first few times around, and then he struggles, the third time around when guys get to see him. Hitting second kind of ensures that you get that third plate appearance against him, and Jeanette has power, so I like that combo with Cole Mentor's fly ball tendencies in that park, which inflates home runs like 30% above the league average. So I think he's solid. If you want to go Donnie Murphy hitting 6 for Texas as a mid-price play, I think that's a good one as well.
I think, obviously Kinsler is the top play. As I said, I love the Detroit bets today. I think Jose Altuve is a solid option because I'm not super buying into Ray really. I think D. Gordon is a solid option. I think this guy that no one who's ever heard of, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Trainin, whatever.
It's all right. I've heard of tons of guys.
I think he's better than most debut pitchers are going to be, but I think Gordon's still an option. Infante, I think, is an option. So, but I think I'm going to try to fit in Kinsler where I can.
I think I'm going with Scooter. If for no other reason than it allows you to spend at a lot of other positions, and I don't necessarily like to spend at middle infield, except for at shortstop, because the gap between Troy Tulowitzki and every other shortstop right now is just massive, and you don't want to be sweating his at-bats. Last night, I was G-chatting with Leone in the 9th inning of the Rockies game, and he had to sit there and sweat out Tulowitzki's last at-bat, praying that he wasn't going to hit a third home run because he faded Tulowitzki last night. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well for me either, fading Tulo last night.
No. Oh, you and Laffy both were like, oh, what do you know? And I'm like, no, you got to get him in there. And I think the only time he's automatic is at Coors versus a left-handed pitcher. Other times, I think you can reasonably get away with fading him. Tonight, you just have to put him in. Is there anyone you're even considering, Dink?
I mean, there's other guys. I will try to get Tulo wherever I can. But, I mean, you can get, Charlie Culberson is playing. He's hitting 7th. He's not much of a hitter, but he's like minimum price, and he's got shortstop eligibility some places. So he doesn't bother me. just kind of looking around. I mean, it's slim pickings at shortstop. Obviously, Hanley, if you can get a depressed price tag, isn't in a bad spot because, as Derek said, the pitcher the Nats called up doesn't look like he's particularly great, and Hanley's hitting third, so that's not a bad spot. But for me, I've mostly been kind of plugging in Tulo and then working back from there.
I think the thing about Tulo too is Robbie Ross is a solid pitcher, but I'm not convinced he really has a good weapon to put away right-handers, especially a right-hander the quality of Tulo. I mean, other options you can look at, I think, Asdrubal Cabrera. I feel like I'm recommending him all the time, and he's never doing anything. But, matchup is okay again for him there tonight. I think Alcides Escobar has a solid matchup tonight. I like Culberson too. So yeah, I think that's where you go with shortstop.
The Indians have 8 lefties or switch hitters against a reverse split Samuel Deduno, which Jordan texted me earlier and was like, "That's weird, right?" It's like, I did not notice that at first, but yeah, that's really weird. So
I thought it was Deduno.
all the like podcasts and stuff I've heard, they say Deduno.
I always pronounce it like in my head like Deduno, but
I think
that's how I do it.
Name? Jonathan VR against Robbie Ray is a solid play too.
I had a question for Drew and Derek. I'm drafting against, let's see, this guy's name is The One Who Knocks. Not a bad name on the Elite Draft. For infield purposes...
Dink, you should start drafting too.
I can't.
Yeah, no, we're going to get that set up. D. Gordon versus Jose Reyes. They're both about the same price.
I'd rather take my shot with
I mean,
you than that.
I think that's pretty easy.
I don't know what Dink just said, but I think even though Reyes has a tough matchup, I still think he's just so much better overall. You have to go with him.
Drew, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue it because it's not. I think it's a 50-50. Like the matchup for Gordon is really really strong, and I think that kind of neutralizes some of the gap. The other thing about Reyes is he has not hit as well from the right side the last few years as he has from the left side. But I mean, I think it's a 50-50. I'd probably take D just because I think they're going to turn that lineup over a few more times. So I think they're going to get more at bats.
One of them has 19 stolen bases. The other one of them does not. So I think D. Gordon is, when he has the platoon split, I think you got to go with him.
He's got the platoon split, but I think this guy that he's up against is better than people are going to give him credit for. Just they see a name they don't know and they assume he's going to get rocked. I mean, he throws like 95, 96 with a good breaking ball. So
I didn't know he threw that hard. I didn't know he threw that hard.
800 plus OPS the last 2 years to lefties in the minors. So, I mean, if he's given up 800 plus OPS to left-handed hitters in the minors, I'm assuming the major leaguers are going to be able to produce a number higher than that. So I like the
D. Gordon is like a minor league hitter, though, who just runs really fast. He's like not a good hitter.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, Gordon's definitely on my radar. I think he's a good play. And I couldn't fault you with going him over Reyes, but I just think, I don't know, it's hard passing up a hitter that's so much better, even in a really significantly worse matchup.
It's okay. I'm starting Eric Kratz,
I'm
is
psyched that Eric Kratz is playing tonight. By the way,
he's batting 6th in the lineup.
Team or two.
Yeah, he's batting 6th in the lineup, and he's minimum salary. So that solved my problem right there. Thanks, guys. And we're good to go in the draft now, so we can start drafting. The zeros have been fixed. And we will get to that. Let's talk, though, about the corners, the hot corners.
Prince Fielder. Do we go back to the well, Dink?
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't. Nicasio is a worse pitcher than Lyles and gives up more balls in the air. We've got Fielder as our number 3 hitter overall in our model behind Miguel Cabrera. Really like number 2/3, like tied with David Ortiz. And he's much cheaper than those guys, so yeah.
Yeah, I think Fielder's a good play today. I like Miggy better, but where there's like a big price gap, like you see on like FanDuel or some places, Fielder is he's the better play, because he offers more upside given the price.
This is where I think we need to have Steve Finkelstein on the show, because there are some players that he is so passionate about. If you mention Prince Fielder, he will tell you exactly why.
Oh, he's got a column of TweetDeck pulled up for any time someone tweets about him. He'll meet you there by the time you hit send on that tweet. He'll be there to tell you about how you shouldn't play him until he gets down to 2.9K on FanDuel. He will be there.
He will not say Fielder's name without using Fat Princess Fielder. That's what he calls him now. And it's all caps. It's never like a normal spelling of the name. It's always all caps. Anyways, I'm down with Fielder, too. I was down with him last night. Good call, by the way. Really, all three of you guys on the Brandon Moss over Fielder call. That paid off.
Question, though. Did any of us use that in our lineups? Pretty sure we all went Fielder.
I did. I cashed DraftKings lineup by taking him in my Rocky stack.
Yeah, I had. Well, he was outfield eligible. We all said that on the show yesterday. We all said.
I took him at first base, though. Over Morneau.
Oh.
Yeah. Because he was
a lot. Morneau wasn't in play yesterday.
In a stack on DraftKings?
You take. I don't take the non-platoon guys. I just don't do it.
Especially ones with platoon splits as huge as Morneau's. Morneau's has. My system has Morneau, I think, with like the second biggest platoon split in all of baseball.
Yeah, but Dink will tell you on DraftKings, stacks most of the time work, and sometimes like when you have a team, if you put a team that you want to really like have a chance to compete for that $20,000 or $25,000, you're hoping that they score in double digits. And what happens when a team scores 9 or 10 runs? You're not going to get that platoon split for the whole game. You're going to get some chances for those other guys. And so you've got a guy, even like Cargo was 3% owned on DraftKings last night just because his salary is so high. But I think if you really want to win over there on DraftKings, you've got to take 5 or 6 players from a team that's going to go off. And sometimes that means guys that don't have good platoon splits. That's just what we've seen, historically speaking. Anyways.
All right. Are there other first basemen you guys would like to mention? I think I'm just playing Fielder.
Matt Adams is in a good spot. And he's very cheap.
Who did Dink say?
Matt Adams.
Oh, yeah, Adams wasn't really on my radar. I think there's other guys you can look at. Chris Carter, Anthony Rizzo, maybe Yonder Alonso, Billy Butler, but I think Fielder or Miggy is the way to go.
Oh, I guess I hadn't even thought about Miggy. He's just expensive. Like, at this point, like, I think you're taking too low over Miggy, and, like, if you're taking a reasonable pitcher and not Robbie Ray or Drew Hutchinson, it's hard to spend on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, if you can fit Miggy in, I like him a little better than Fielder, but because the price gap is so big in places, I think Fielder's where you go.
Okay. Let's talk about third base then. I think obviously Arenado, Pacheco, Adrian Beltre are all pretty solid options. Let's talk about the non Rangers Rockies game. Who is the third baseman you like outside of that game, Derek?
Nick Castellanos against Oberholzer, another Detroit guy. I'm gonna have a Detroit guy at every position that I like. I think Matt Dominguez is a solid play tonight too. Luis Valbuena isn't bad. He's batting second tonight against Noesi with the platoon advantage. There's some wind blowing in, but he's not a terrible guy for cheap. Yeah, I think if you're punting, I mean, like Jace Peterson against Guthrie is okay. So.
Okay. Dink, how do you feel about Pacheco or Arenado? Are those guys you were targeting, or are you just sticking with Beltre?
I'm sticking with Beltre where there's a big price difference. If Arenado's priced cheaper, like I know he is on draft day, I was looking. I don't mind taking Arenado. I've got Beltre ranked higher in our model, but it's not significantly higher, so I'll let price dictate it for me. I agree with Derek on Castellanos and the Tigers as a whole. The other guy that I'd throw in there is Matt Carpenter, who's really underpriced around the industry, and Gavin Floyd's coming back off a rehab start, and last time we saw Floyd, he wasn't particularly good. Granted, that's probably because he was pitching hurt, but It's been a long road to hoe for Floyd, so I don't mind taking some Cardinals lefties there.
Yeah, I have like a huge crush on Gavin Floyd. I have him in like all of my deeper like expert season long leagues, so I kind of was overlooking some Cardinals today. I can see it just because there is a lot of risk with him, but I do like Floyd, so.
Okay. Then I think we can move on to outfield. I don't have a stat of the day. Because I just every time I've looked them up, it's been about a pitcher, and I've just ended up using them. So that'll return on Thursday. But outfield, I think, is super important today. I think that you need to make all three of your outfielding decisions correctly because all of the Rockies outfielders are in play, obviously, and the way that Texas structured their lineup today, they have Leonis Martin batting second. And outfield in general, I think you need to make solid plays at, and it's harder to punt there. So, run me through some of your value options first, the guys that you can not spend that much money on and feel safe with your lineup, Dink.
JD Martinez, Leonis Martin, Drew Stubbs. Those three kind of stand out to me. Brandon Barnes is not in the lineup. Stubbs is, so he's the Rockies outfielder that's cheap there. Those are the three guys that first kind of jump off the page. There's some other guys here and there. I mean, Ethier is pretty cheap. He's hitting cleanup tonight with no Gonzalez and no Puig. He's in a good spot. Those are kind of the four names that I'm mostly surfing around. If you can find a good price on Torrey Hunter, he's obviously in a good spot. We talked a lot about the Tigers' righty bats against the lefty. So all those guys kind of stand out to me.
Yeah, I'm with Drew on most of those guys. JD Martinez is cheap. He's batting fifth tonight. Awesome matchup. Torrey Hunter, too, if you can fit him in. Same thing with Martin. I think... sorry, I had someone. Oh, Sam Fold is batting second tonight against Josh Tomlin, who I think is a decent pitcher, but, I mean, for what he's going to cost, I think Fold is a solid option tonight. And I'm pretty much with Dink on, Martin, Chu, Torrey Hunter, the whole deal, Austin Jackson.
Would you guys be actively because Chu is pretty expensive on every site? Would you be actively targeting him and like trying to make him one of the guys that you work around, or is he more just like if you're okay taking a value option at third base like Valbuena or Pacheco? Is it someone you're really targeting?
I think I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think he's a really good guy to get in the lineup tonight. I think he's one of the better, higher-priced options. So he's definitely a guy that will probably wind up in my lineups, but it's not like I plug him in first and then try to build around him.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. As far as value moves, I think there's a guy that you missed that I recommend every single night that he has a platoon advantage, but Yelich. I mean, against another sort of mediocre type pitcher.
Cologne is not a mediocre pitcher. Cologne is good.
No, Cologne sucks against lefties, Cardi. He's very good against righties. He's very, very good against righties.
Let me pull this up. I think I pulled him up before. I think I got Cologne down for basically like an average.
Then you're not factoring in home runs or something because he gives up a ton of bombs to lefties.
Average overall split. Give me a second. I'm going to figure out this home run thing.
Oh yeah, and while Cardi is looking that up, I will say that someone in the chat just mentioned Chris Heisey. I'm on board with that too. He should be super cheap.
Heisey's really cheap and he's batting leadoff. It's a park downgrade though from Cincinnati to Fenway. A lot of people don't think of it that way, but it is. And then Heisey's always been this guy who has not hit lefties as well as righties, which has been weird. I don't mind him. He's just way behind the other guys for me.
I mean, the thing with Heisey is that he's always been one of those guys that he's sort of like the Ricky Nolasco of batters, where you're like, oh, the peripherals say he's going to be really good, the peripherals say he's going to be really good, and then every time he gets a lot of playing time, he kind of gets exposed. That being said, he's got to be close to the minimum almost everywhere, right, Dink?
Yeah, but again, get in line, Chris Heisey, behind all the other guys we mentioned.
Yeah, I got Cologne down for very, very similar home run rates against both. So I don't know.
What the hell data are you looking at, Cardi?
I'm running my system.
For his career, he's allowed 1.4 home run per nine to lefties and 0.87 to righties, and a 44% fly ball rate to lefties and a 32% to righties. It's not even home run per fly ball driven.
I don't know. I got my system. It looks at the number of years that are relevant. It weights them. It regresses them. It does the whole deal, and that's what it's telling me. So I'll take a
Go
deeper
back to the
look
drawing
later.
board.
But
Oh God, I've been waiting for you guys to fight about your models for a month. This is so good. Point being, Yelich is still a great option because Cologne. Fine, I will say he is better than mediocre, Derek. I will say that. But I also do recognize that there is a platoon split and that Yelich is on the right side of it. Maybe it's not a massive platoon split, but it does exist. And I just like taking leadoff guys anyway. He's going to get 4 or 5 at bats. He's, for whatever reason, the Marlins have been a good offense at home, and Yelich's price hasn't adjusted anywhere. And he can hurt you in many ways. So I'm still on board with Yelich. As far as spending on guys, I know Tommy wants me to fuel this in the chat, but I'm not doing it because I want to get the advice out, everybody. Yeah. Are any love for the Angels outfielders, because they should be super cheap everywhere? Grant Green is shortstop eligible on FanDuel if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't see very many other options worth being super excited about though.
I mean, the Angels, their outfield is primarily right-handed. Trout's super expensive. Kuroda's pretty good against righties and getting a pretty meaningful boost in ballpark factor. Raul Ibanez, if you want to take a chance at a cheap home run, okay, but nah, I'm not really interested. I like Kuroda more than I like the Angels' bats tonight.
Yeah, I still don't understand why no site is listing CJ Cron. I just want to take him just because that's such a fucking cool name. CJ Cron is a great name. I want to take him in a tournament so bad, and he's not listed anywhere other than DraftKings. But you guys know what time it is now. It's guaranteed dong time. Drew Dinkmeyer, who is your one obvious and then under the radar guaranteed dong? And only one person can take Tulo.
Okay, I'll leave you guys for Tulo then. I'll go with Prince Fielder. Think he leaves the park tonight.
Okay.
In under the radar, I'll go with your boy Scooter Gennett.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know that he had power until I went to his fan graphs the other day and saw that he actually can hold the bat a little bit, which is cool.
You can swing it.
Got a little bit. My obvious guarantee dong, I will leave Tulo for you, Davis, and I'll take Miggy. And then my under the radar, I'll take JD Martinez.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. Astros hitters in general are always a good one because that was my whole argument with Scherzer last night, is that they're all just a bunch of hackers, and that he could have given up multiple home runs. Obvious, I'm gonna go with Tulo, and then I'm gonna give another one just because that is too easy, and I'm gonna say that Rizzo gets one if that game does get played tonight, and then for my under the radar one. I will say that Jordan Pacheco gets one off of Robbie Ross. That's going to happen. More importantly, though, I'm going to regret this. I've made a terrible mistake. Who are you most afraid of fading tonight, Dink?
Kershaw. I don't have any Kershaw. He's one of my favorite players in all of MLB, and I have outside of a tournament, I have no exposure to him in cash games, so I'm a little bit nervous about fading Kershaw.
Yeah, I'm with you on that's my pick too, because I'm not going to own Kershaw anywhere, and he's Clayton Kershaw, so even though he's got not the best matchup and it's first time back, there's still a pretty solid chance he just goes out and dominates.
Yep, for sure. And mine's obviously Kershaw, but Now, we got to talk a little bit about our Elite Draft if you want to pull up the link, Dave. Apparently, Kitchen believes that the Chicago game is going to be played tonight because he just took Hector Noesi. As far as these picks go so far, Dink is clearly all in on the Texas-Colorado game, and I am too. I think if you guys are playing tonight, the first pick you need to have made is Drew Stubbs for 5,000. You got to lock that in because you can build the rest of your lineup around that. I mean, that if you have the second pick. Now, if you have the first pick, you got to take Tulo for 13. But other than that, Stubbs needs to be your guy. I did take Henderson Alvarez though. Something has gotten into the Marlins homerism is like a real thing right now. Like I see that MIA and I'm like, yeah, gotta do it. Not Tom Kohler though. Never Tom Kohler.
You just paid 14 for Henderson Alvarez.
Yeah, I did. You don't understand how important every single time I do one of these drafts, I do it with Tuttle, I do it with Laffy, it doesn't matter. They're like, no, I don't need a starting pitcher.
That's 3. I mean, okay.
If he gets, honestly though, but I have Stubbs for 5,000. If Henderson Alvarez gets me like 12, 13 points, I'm happy with it, honestly.
Do you get a lot of points for ground balls?
Maybe,
No.
probably not.
You don't.
Okay. 12 seems like a lot.
Yeah, the thing is, you have to. It's like any other site, really. You've got to value where you're placing your value. Because
Dink, I learned to place so much importance on pitching from you. You're the one who
Yeah,
taught me.
but you're doing it with Henderson Alvarez. Like,
Well, my options.
like I learned how to value big men in the NBA from Hakeem Olajuwon. Give me Steven Adams with that first pick.
Well, Steven Adams is going to be a Hall of Famer, so you should keep your blasphemy to yourself. But my other options, or Edwin Jackson, are Bartolo Colon or Hector Noesi, which I'm not taking any of those guys.
Marco Estrada's hanging out there like, what the F, man?
Yeah, and he throws 89 miles an hour. He's not making it on any of my teams.
all right, I mean the big thing is you paid 2,000 more than Tulo was. I mean, it is going to be interesting though. I would say this has been one of the more polarizing shows as far as stances go. I mean, because you've got the Henderson Alvarez Island, you've got Chris Archer Island, you have Bartolo Colon Island.
Nothing will ever get more polarizing than the NBA shows that Dan Wahoo and I did, though. We literally we disagreed on every single position every single night. It was ridiculous.
Oh, man. I do want to also tell people, for those wondering, I took Laura Bucket List to school.
Oh, God, Dave, no, you can't do this. You can't brag about beating a girl.
I'm not bragging. I'm just letting the people know. In the game, she decided not to have any exposure to the Rockies-Rangers game, which was a little bit surprising. But then again, she's a friend of Tommy G, so how smart can she be?
She should be used to exposure, though.
Oh, man. I'm only kidding.
Boy.
Laura, if you're in the chat, I'm only kidding. I say that just not because of you, but because of Tommy. So just know that. As far as, though, tonight we've got another matchup, and we'll see what happens. But hopefully she does not listen. Or maybe I just hope that whoever advice on the show she takes, it's the wrong advice.
Well, I think every pitching pick is going to be wrong tonight. I think every starting pitcher gives up 4 earned runs. That's got to be the only outcome. Either that happens or either that or there's going to be 2 complete game shutouts. That's what's going to happen.
Or
and one of them's going to be Henderson Alvarez.
No, I think it's going to be a bunch of 4 or 5 run game. But yeah. It should be interesting. This was a fun show, though, I thought, as far as the different. I'm going to be anxious to see next week a Dink versus Cardi draft on Elite, and the gloves will come off because it'll be. They both have their precious models, and
you two are so cute. With
I know
your
they are.
McAllister versus Travis Wood argument.
Well, my model favors this. Well, my model favors this. No,
I'm
you
looking
be
at where
quiet.
my cologne thing is happening. It's happening in the regression. I'm finding that you need to regress home runs pretty heavily, and that's where my Bartolo cologne not being all that home run problematic against opposite handers thing is coming from.
I think what we've learned is Christian Yelich is a balls amazing play tonight. That's like the most important lesson. and with that, we're gonna say goodbye at Fantasy Insiders TV. Thank you, Drew Dinkmeyer from Roto Experts, for joining us. You guys want to check out his advice package? Head over there to Roto Experts. Click on the Daily tab, Daily Fantasy Rundown, right there. Derek Carty from Fantasy Insiders, and many other sources on the web, and the omnipresent voice of David Kitchen, always there in the background, waiting for me to fuck up, and then straighten the ship.
Oh gosh.
Yep. Sorry, the show went off the tracks. I feel okay swearing today.
Oh, Davis, what are we going to do with you? Yeah, thanks to all of our guests. We'll post a link to... We had a little bit of trouble getting the draft started, but we'll post a link. You can see it on the screen. And make sure you're getting into some of these drafts. They're a fun draft. I drafted against that guy, the one who knocks. And it's always fun drafting with the different slates because there are different strategies that you can use. And you can use a challenge feature now on the Fantasy Elite Draft. But tomorrow should be a good show. Davis is going to be like receiving some award.
Yeah, I'm not going to be here tomorrow.
What award are you going to receive? The cool guy award?
Basically, I sort of dragged the Kansas State forensics team kicking and screaming into the top 20 schools in the country for 2 years in a row. So the department is honoring me with something. I don't know the specifics.
Yeah.
My coach just told me I need to be there and look nice.
Well, make sure you tweet out a picture of however you look.
Have you guys not seen any pictures of me in a suit? No, my Twitter display picture is me in a suit.
Every time you're in a suit, you post a picture.
3,100 and however many people have seen that picture.
Anytime you're in a suit, you post a picture. That's just like a rule. It's like when someone sends Derek a compliment on Twitter. It's got to be retweeted.
It's the retweet.
So it's just a rule. It's also a rule. It's also interesting tonight. Tommy G's taking on Brett Favre. Before we go, I want to get your guys' opinions. Brett Favre is on a roll. He steamrolled Cardinals after Cardinals took Game 1. He beat Dink's best friend Hicksville Hunk, and now he's taken on Tommy G. Has Tommy G bit off more than he could chew? That's my question. I think Tommy's a good MLB player. I think that he made a tactical error allowing the match to take place on Draft Street, though. Like it's gonna be hard to go from setting lineups on FanDuel every single day and really trying to make your lineup work around one pitcher to trying to make it work around 3. Drew?
I'm not gonna go against my boy Tommy.
No, I'm totally on Tommy's
Pull it out.
Yeah.
Well, we know that Tommy G never pulls out.
Oh, nice. Well, that will do it for the show. If you're wanting my opinion, I'm Team Tommy G tonight. Or I guess Team Tommy G for the first. It's a best of 7 series.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll be Team Tommy G for the first 4 games because that's how long it'll take Brett Favre to win the series. But I will be on Tommy G's side cheering for him. I just think he's the opposing team. He's like the 8 seed coming in. No, he's like the 15 seed playing a 2 seed. I mean, that's kind of how I view it. But stranger things have happened.
His model.
What's that?
What do you think Favre calls his model?
Wait, I don't know. Jen?
Yeah.
Sturger?
Yeah. I mean, I think what we need to do is we need to get Mike 5754 and Tommy going at baseball. because their best sport is baseball. So I think we need to stoke that rivalry back up.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, and Mike's a tout now, so he can be like, hey, you want to win this money? Come give me your money, so I can show you.
Mike
my
would have
model."
to ask his dad if he could borrow his model first. Well, we'll see about that. Join us tomorrow. We'll have all the model talk. We'll have it'll be a fun show, and we'll see which one of these guys were right about the island that they picked. So fun show, guys. Tune in tomorrow, and we'll have more stuff. 5 Eastern. Thanks to Fantasy Elite for sponsoring the show. Go check them out in the Apple Store. Later. This song is for you, Davis. It's a suit and tie song.
I don't even know what song this is.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I don't like it.
What? Okay. All right, we got to end this show. Later, guys.
Stop. Let me get a